Behind the cape, Brie Larson is reportedly disappointed with her MCU role because of the toxic backlash that she's been receiving. A little weird that she's choosing now, right before the movie, to speak up about it, especially since she's been receiving said backlash for quite some time.
Do they have a quote? Or this is all he say, she say kind of stuff?
I saw an article, but let me see if I can find an actual quote. An excerpt from the MCU, The Reign of Marvel Studios book reveals Larson grew disillusioned with playing Captain Marvel after receiving online attacks and abuse following the acclaimed eponymous movie. The claim, which was backed by one of the book's writers, Joanna Robinson, in a recent interview, suggests Larson had been considering giving up her role as Carol Danvers for some time. Marvel Studios put Brie Larson in a prominent place in the MCU. I don't know if Brie Larson was the wrong person for the role necessarily, but the toxic backlash means that Brie Larson doesn't want to play Carol Danvers anymore.
So I gotta read this book because that's the same book where the whole MCU is gonna reboot the Secret Wars thing came from. Yeah, so I get that the internet fanboy culture is what it is. And I also understand that there are people in that space who cannot and will not ever be pleased, and their only way, or the only way that they see to be successful in this space, is to farm negativity and hate. And I know that exists, and I know that Brie Larson in particular has been subject to that type of interaction.
Agreed.
What you cannot do as the public figure, as the actual celebrity, the one who has the maximum amount of reach and influence, even more so than the collective groans of the fanboy culture, or whatever you want to call it, the one thing you cannot do is get on your hands and knees and argue with them. You just cannot do it. You just
let them know that it affects you. No,
let them know that it's getting to you, that they can touch you, that they can affect your mood, behavior, and public statements. You just can't do it.
It's the last thing
you cannot do it. Can't do it. And the minute that she did that, I don't know. They want me to do it? I don't know. She did two things. She gave them the green light, number one.
She legitimized it.
And then number two, who are you centering in that moment? Guys like Chillmonger, who have been singing Captain Marvel's praises since 2018? Or are you centering your trolls?
Guys
who
like
are you giving airtime to in your limited time here on the red carpet or wherever the hell you were talking about this? Who are you giving your time to? The girls who dressed up as Captain Marvel on Halloween last year? Or are you giving the most negative people who have something to say about your iteration of Captain Marvel all the energy and all of the screen time?
Yeah.
And so then now, when people think of you in relation to Captain Marvel, what do they think about? They think about controversy over fans not wanting you. Yep. And you are at least 50% responsible for that, for legitimizing it.
Mm-hmm. And bringing it to the mainstream.
I mean, you don't think there were people that hated Henry Cavill Superman? You don't think there were people that hated Ben Affleck's Batman? You don't think there were people that hated that iteration? They ignored the fuck out of me. They ignored me. Not necessarily on the Cavill thing. I think that was adequate casting. Ben Affleck, I hated. But ignored me and ignored people like me. Go make a movie. And then you big up your actual fans, which there are many of them, people who really love Ben Affleck as Batman. There are plenty of them.
No, I don't.
Okay, I was getting ready to say.
I don't love Batfleck.
Didn't even know you seen the movie.
I definitely seen the movie, but I'm not that big of a fan of Batfleck.
You know, but there are a lot of people that like that iteration of Batman. So who am I to define what the entire opinion as a fandom is on a actor playing a character? But again, you gave them the legitimate kind of eye when you said, well, I don't know if anybody wants me to come back. Okay, well then you just told us that the vast majority of people don't want you to come back in a very pessimistic, passive-aggressive way.
Mm-hmm.
It's what you just said out of your own mouth. Well, damn, fuck me if I was a Brie Larson fan, huh? To hell with me, and I'm not worth acknowledging. So easy to say, man. Hey, look, I love the Marvel fans. There are plenty of people that are excited about his character. I mean, first of all, the question wasn't even about that. It wasn't even about any controversy. It was no reason to even introduce it into the what was being asked. She asked you about your return as Captain Marvel,
and you were so in your feelings that you decided
like
to mention
that you centered the only negative buzz around your character at that time.
Sheesh.
For no reason.
Yeah.
So I get it. It has been unfair. But at the same time, I don't feel like she's handled it extremely well. And then now with the second movie coming up, like there's stuff that goes into that, man. Like these people are very obsessed with public image and Q ratings and a whole bunch of stuff that normal people don't operate by. But that's how some of these decisions get made. Mm-hmm. And you have to remember, they're not actually writing scripts for these movies. Like, we've had this pretty much verified now. They're not writing hard scripts for all of these movies. They are writing scenarios. And when they come to a decision on how they want the movie to go, that's what they piece together in post-production. Mm-hmm. That's how these movies are being shot. They shoot one scenario, then they shoot an alternate ending, then they shoot another alternate ending, and then they shoot an alternate middle, and then they shoot another alternate middle to match the alternate endings that they just established. And then they may do something different in the opening. You know what I'm saying? Like they're putting a puzzle out there and then allowing Kevin to come through and say, okay, this is how it fits.
Yep.
That is how several TV show directors, a couple different movie directors have told us how it goes. That's how it goes. That's how they do it at Marvel. Mm-hmm. So if you're writing like that, you don't afford yourself a chance to really pivot after you've made a final decision. You think that you're pivoting in the middle of production, but you're not, because you didn't really start with a concrete idea to begin with. Your final project is actually your first draft, where in most cases, people would have came up with an idea, wrote a first draft, second draft, third draft, whatever. In this case, there is no first draft. The first draft is what is the amalgamation of all the things that were shot and pieced together in post-production. That is the first draft. If that was what happened with the Marvels, and we somehow ended up with a movie that Brie Larson is no longer quote-unquote headlining, or even in name or in feature, she's still the main draw, but she's probably not going to get the screen time that, a Captain America got in Civil War, bookended by all these bigger faces. Mm-hmm. She's not going to get the kind of screen time that maybe Scarlett Johansson got in Black Widow. It's not going to be that type of movie. It is going to be a true team-up film, which, I mean, I feel for, man. Like, I made a movie for y'all. It made $1 billion. Now you can give me the logic about where it was placed, how it was strategically marketed, and then kind of, rug pulled out for you from under you when you were actually in the theater. That's one thing, but that's not on Brie Larson. She didn't write the movie. She didn't direct the movie. She just acted in it, and she also didn't decide how to market it either. That's not on her.
Yeah.
Y'all asked her to do a job. She did it exceedingly well. The movie made a bunch of money. So from that standpoint alone, you would like to see enough loyalty that you would stay the course on her sequel, as opposed to putting her a part of a team-up film in her second iteration. Because now you're signaling to me as a fan, a person who you were once touting to take over the Avengers and lead them into this next phase, well, she's secondary. She's absolutely secondary because she's in a team-up film now.
Yeah.
She's absolutely secondary. I don't know how this plays into, the rest of her castmates or director, Nia DaCosta. I would hope that she wouldn't take her frustrations out on any of them and it wouldn't cause any rifts. But then also, these are humans and adults. So, shit happens. But I kind of feel for her, I guess, in that regard.
Yeah. Gen V has already been renewed for season 2, which...
Yeah, we were talking about that at the end of the Gen V review for this week.
Definitely deserving of it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, the one thing that studios are good for once they see a hit is to create spinoffs.
They don't do really it so like quickly these days.
They don't really like to marinate into the main thing and solidifying it. They want to grow. They want as much much watch time as you'll possibly give.
Mm-hmm.
So I would not be too surprised if we see another Boys spinoff, sometime during the next season of Gen V or maybe after announced. Because why stop there? Why not keep building it successful now?
Yeah. Speaking of how things are performing, the Flower Moon.
The Flower Moon
has done $23 million in its opening weekend, which it looks like the budget was $200 million.
Jeez.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, so
Seems
far
like
it's
a
done
lot.
$23 million. It does seem like a lot.
It's like a Marvel film.
Yeah.
For very practical shots. I mean,
Yeah.
those costumes must cost a
That's why I'm confused because
Jesus.
$200 million. There's
That
some
seems
Marvel
very
movies
expensive.
that didn't do
Yeah, it seems very expensive for a Scorsese film. But again, I haven't seen the film, so we don't know what's involved. Maybe there's a little bunch of explosions. I think there are a lot of fight scenes involved in this story. One of the things that I saw from some of the reviewers coming out that did, besides the length, which I knew we were going to have to deal with that, is that the relationship described between Leonardo DiCaprio's character, which is, I think he's supposed to infiltrate the Native American family so that they can steal their land, is kind of the gist of the plot there.
Mm-hmm.
Is that it's a little bit overly romanticized and that kind of, rub individuals in the indigenous community the wrong way, which I can completely understand. So it's why these type of, culturally relevant movies, i.e. The Woman King from last year, kind of gets a little sticky, especially if you're trying to make one of these movies from outside of that community.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're also not telling the story from their perspective, because the stars of the movie are Robert De Niro and Leonardo DiCaprio. So you telling the story from the white man's perspective. And then on top of that, you're romanticizing the relationship that he had with them that was built on deceit from the jump. So I don't know. Y'all go see the movie. Y'all tell me what y'all think about it. I'll see it soon and we'll reconvene.
Absolutely. Speaking of things that may have become romanticized, at least in the mainstream these days, Dave Chappelle just had a stand-up special or stand-up event where he espoused some anti-Israel views, which the whole thing about Israel has been, I think, romanticized a little much.
Some anti-Zionist views.
Yeah, that caused some of his crowd to walk out, which...
Yeah, I mean... This is, first of all, this is nothing new for Dave Chappelle.
Yes,
but I hope that it does serve as a bit of a reality check for him, because of where he lives in Red Trump, Ohio. Are you surprised? Like you live right in the middle of Trump country, white evangelical Republicans. Are you surprised that they're walking out when you giving a pro first of all a pro-Muslim stance on anything for any matter, let alone a pro-Palestine take? So that wasn't very surprising, but the fact that we keep running into these folks who are justifying what's going on in Palestine and Gaza. You just got to really take note, man. I know I will never forget some of y'all. I will never forget Jean Pierre. I will never forget Amari Stoudemire. I will never forget Luke Skywalker. This will not go away. The next time you come out here and you're begging for public support or anything, skirt, because you literally hid behind a book to justify children dying. I didn't see anything in there about Jesus' disciples or his chosen people having the right to murder children.
Yeah.
And they definitely didn't say anything about ballistic missiles or tanks, so we can't even apply that.
No.
But there's just, it's not a thing. And the fact that even people that I know, former churchgoers churchgoers from a former church I went to, just watching them speak about this shit online is making my skin crawl. Like how you can try to justify this evil that is politically driven. Like take your God goggles off for a second and realize that all of this is being driven by individuals, not Jesus Christ. These are decisions that are being made by a leader, not by a entity or a god. And because it loosely fits a description in a book that has been prophesized for thousands of years, is not a reason to accept the politics of men for murder. So, yeah. And it's so crazy. These probably the same people that was walking out after the trans jokes, right? Because trans jokes are harmful to trans people.
Yeah.
And here he is advocating for the protection of an oppressed group. And y'all still walking out. So what are we doing, man?
That's so wild.
What are we doing? Oh, it wasn't the correct oppressed group. Because that oppressed group has beef with one of the United States allies, and I'm so tapped into U.S. foreign policy that I couldn't possibly break away from Israel because the government told me not to.
It sounds like Marvel fandom.
Jesus Christ. Hey, in Dubs and L's, there is something much worse than what just happened to Dave Chappelle, and we'll talk about it. Coming from the leader of the free world. But it is getting scary out here, the things that are being justified, man. Like we a lot of people talk about United States being a fascist state because of wars abroad and things of that nature. This kind of language, it does sound very, very fascist. It sounds like justifications for violence even beyond what is typical from the United States military industrial complex and executive branch. It's even beyond the pale of your normal type of acceptable losses in wars against terror bullshit. But we'll get to that then.
Sure. Our last topic has to do with Halle Berry being absolutely swindled.
Halle Berry. Miss Berry.
Yikes.
Yeah, no, that is some trash. So we actually was going to talk about this last week, but we get to it now. Matt Vaughn was doing an interview at, I think it was Comic-Con New York, maybe? Some Comic-Con.
Mm-hmm.
He told a story about how he quit X-Men Last Stand because he apparently walked into a meeting and saw a script for X-Men 3. And then started reading it, and it had a scene about Storm going to Africa to this village where children were thirsty and providing them water with a thunderstorm. And he goes, oh, that's pretty cool. What is this part of? And she's like, oh, that's just the Halle Berry script. He's like, Halle Berry script? He's like, yeah, the Storm script. And he's like, don't worry. Once we get her on and she's all signed on to do it, we're going to throw it in the bin.
That's crazy.
That's fucking nuts. That is insane.
That is crazy.
Like, how is that not fraud?
That's definitely fraud.
Is that not fraud? Like, you hiring me under false pretenses? But now they probably offered her to her in some backroom deal. It was like, hey, listen, we can't put this in officially now. But if you sign the deal, we were thinking about going the angle of Storm. Does that entice you? Huh? And so it's not officially written into the contract because they can't talk about it. They can't release it or announce it. But it's happening until you sign on and that shit is gone.
Hey, do this movie with us. We got this nice little Storm script.
Sick.
Hey, throw this away. We don't need this.
The fact that I never heard Halle Berry come out and tell that story is interesting.
She might not be able to talk about it.
Why wouldn't she?
I don't know. Well, no.
I feel like her X-Men obligations got to be well gone. Like, she say what the hell she want.
Yeah.
Maybe she signed an NDA for some reason.
That's what I was thinking, but I don't know.
Now, Vaughn went on to say that he was going to come back for Days of Future Past. Right? It's my favorite X-Men movie. And he was going to go ahead and direct it until right before production, they let him know that legally Bryan Singer had to direct it, excuse me. So, like, they end up doing the same shit to him.
Yeah.
Like, circle jerked him around until, we just playing. We ain't got no job for you.
Yikes.
Like, damn, Brody.
Everybody getting fucked up out here.
It's nuts, man. No wonder all the actors, VFX artists, writers, everybody striking.
Yeah.
It's dog world out there in Hollywood.
Especially when they do what they're doing with Daredevil, too. I don't like how this is going. So give me some more actors and writers and directors.
We're just going to scrap the whole shit. Like, first of all, you hired them. And you knew exactly what they were because some of them came from a prior production that supposedly let you know that you were going in the wrong direction.
Yikes.
I'm telling y'all, man. Negligence. It's more rampant than you believe.
Yep.
In some of the places you wouldn't expect to see it.
Facts.
Guess we'll save that for another day. Give us your thoughts on everything discussed here in Behind the Cape. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Come back next week for another episode Behind the Cape.
Absolutely. And make sure you check out our playlist full of Behind the Cape segments where we discuss, obviously, entertainment news. And then also make sure you check out our previous video where we discussed the Daredevil situation and all the stuff that's going on with that.